That is happening. Zelensky says he'll be waiting for Putin in Turkey on Thursday. For more, let's welcome in the U.S. ambassador to NATO, longtime friend of this program, Matt Whitaker. First time I've been able to say this to you in person, Mr. Ambassador. This would be a first for direct talks between Russia and Ukraine. This is actually positive if Russia shows up.
Yeah, it is, and it's good to be with you both and my good friend Mark. I told you I'd eventually get on your show as soon as I got confirmed, and this is one of the first TV hits I've had a chance to do. And there's so much going on, and they're all important. But obviously, ending the needless killing in Russia, in Ukraine by Russia and the Ukrainians, I think is so important. And, there's only one person that could put this deal together and to urge both sides to come to the table. And so on Thursday, they're going to meet in Turkey, hopefully, and begin that end to the war. But, obviously this has been going on for 3 years. But, that last comment on the trade deal with China, I think that's huge. But remember, that was also because Donald Trump reopened lines of negotiation. And, the Biden administration not only had let those atrophy with China, but also the same lines of communication had atrophied with Russia as well. And so just restarting conversations with Russia had to happen before we could even get to this point. So, all the credit obviously goes to Donald Trump and his leadership and everyone on the team, from Secretary Rubio to Vice President Vance to, Secretary Bessent and everyone that is pulling all in the same direction to accomplish these things, to end the killing, to put American interests first, and to really, help the American people win on all these fronts.
Yeah, and you make such a good point. Communication is key. And I know you'll also be in Turkey on Thursday for the NATO foreign ministers meeting, along with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And while the secretary will be discussing, obviously, the Ukraine and Russia, I know that you'll be focused on defense spending and calling on our NATO allies to increase their spending. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, well, several bits of good news. First of all, Secretary Rubio and I will be meeting with the foreign ministers from the other allied countries here in NATO. And, all of them by the June summit, where President Trump will attend, are going to be at 2%. And that is a huge lift. They agreed to that 10 years ago in Wales. What we're asking now is a 5% commitment to really modernize and make lethality the sole purpose of this NATO alliance, to have NATO equalize, to have your European allies and Canada equalize with the United States of America, and really be a deterrent force to increase the substance of what we're putting on the field as a NATO alliance, and deter our enemies and our strategic competitors from ever making a move on NATO territory.
Yeah, Secretary Rubio is going to accompany the president as he travels later this week to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates. The president expected to hold a summit with several Middle East leaders. And I know this is obviously not directly involving NATO, but they're keeping a close eye on the Middle East. What do you expect to see coming from these meetings?
Well, obviously, the Middle East is strategically important, and the Saudis and the Emiratis and so many of our other allies and friends have an important voice in making sure that their region is stable, and you have countries that would like to take a more of a leadership position. But there's only one big dog right now on the globe, and that is the United States of America, led by Donald Trump. And so everyone wants to partner with the United States of America, to invest in the United States of America. And, I think Secretary Rubio is, enjoying his role as both the National Security Advisor and Secretary of State. And he's an important person to have at the table. And then when I see him in Turkey on Thursday, I think we're going to have even more important talks with more allies. And so this is what you do when you talk to your allies, when you make sure your people that oppose you understand clearly what your position is. This is what leadership looks like. For 4 years under Joe Biden, we didn't see that. And now we have a clear American foreign policy that we are advancing. And I'm telling you, it's refreshing to the world to see America leading and leading from the front.